Welcome to the Philosophy Podcast. Why do we call it philosophy? It's the combination of the words sales and philosophy. Today, I'm super excited to have an amazing guest join me. His name is Phil M. Jones. And let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Jones. He is the master of influence and persuasion. He's an author of 7 best-selling books, of which I have 2 of them physically. I have 1 of them in my Audible that I listen to. And he's been a wonderful contributor to other books like this one called Prove It. And the one that I know that sticks out to many, you will know him for one called Exactly What to Say, which is the name of today's episode. We're going to talk a lot about how to have really effective sales conversations and how important it is to use words so that you can impact and influence and persuade in an ethical fashion when you are interacting with your customers. He sold over 1 million copies of this book, and it's been translated to 32 languages. He's been an entrepreneur since 14, one of less than 200 living members of the National Speakers Association's Hall of Fame. And he and his team, they travel around delivering keynote speeches, conducting sales workshops, and now they offer a certification program for coaches like myself and others to guide and carry out this mission of helping sales professionals take their conversations to the next level. Phil, I know you're also a devoted husband and father, and you enjoy a glass of bourbon from time to time. I did see that so we'll definitely love to hear about that. But welcome, sir.
Hey, Carlos. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a delight to be here.
Well, I want to just dive right into it. You have such an amazing background and story, and you're making such an impact and making huge sound waves across the world with this concept of exactly what to say, which I know is sort of your flagship concept that you've rolled out, but you've got so many other philosophies that you share with the world around mindset, around time management and all these. But I want to just kick it off with first, like the inspiration, like what was the ethos of this? Like when did you realize that using words and phraseology in precision had all these impact to influencing and driving better sales conversations?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And I found myself in sales leadership from a very young age. So I was 18, 19, 20, 21, running big teams of sales professionals. And the trouble is not only was I young, I looked younger. So the expectation of winning respect in those sales leadership roles was a real challenge to me in my early career. And it meant that I very quickly learned that I couldn't garner any respect without earning it. The fastest route I had to be able to earn respect was to never give anybody any advice of what to do. It would be like, hey, I know that you're struggling with blank, and I've been watching Carlos, and the way that Carlos goes about blank, blank, and blank is blank, blank, and blank. And if you could be more like Carlos, who's crushing it in that area, chances are, then you might find some elevated performance in your own world. So I started just studying the success of other people to give me a management leadership tool, to allow me to be able to actually guide and coach other people. What started to happen there is that there were patterns and repeats. That anybody that was crushing it was hyper-intentional about their word choices in key moments. There was key points in a sales conversation that get that part right, and guess what? It has an over-indexing compound effect there. That then evolved to me working with groups of people that wanted to understand how to sell better, wanted to understand how to be able to grow revenues or get more from their existing customers or get them to come back more often. And the struggle with all of them was like they wanted the theory, but not really. They wanted the real practical application. So many times people are like, yeah, but Phil, just like, what would it look like if I just had you on my shoulder talking into my ear in terms of giving me this advice you're giving me here right now? How can you just help me know exactly what to say? That's where it started from in all of my early sales trainings and all of my early deliverables. So I started developing sequences of magic words. Magic words were then distilled down into a PDF, and that PDF was a giveaway at the end of trainings and events. And I'd run a 3-day seminar and meet people years after the fact, and people would say things, I'm still using your magic words, I'm still using your magic words. Magic Words was in then a book that we published in 2011, a little bit of a bet. It was a dare almost, a mastermind group of people saying how hard it was to get a book to market. And I was like, I could probably do it in like a month. And they said, well, prove it. So I did, and we put that book to market just as a bet. And the net result was the audience responded well. This was at the launch of KDP Select, so Amazon's Kindle service for self-publishing. We punched it into that, put it on a Kindle promotion, and I woke up the next day to 120,000 downloads of like a book that I'd done as a joke. Well, not a joke, but just it wasn't my best work, right? It was turning a PDF into a book. So that then evolved, and the 2.0 version of that is exactly what to say, which was me writing that book properly, taking like the EP and turning it into a full album. And we did that when I moved my speaking business and my geographic life from being global to much more North American focused. And instead of writing a brand new book, I went back and took something I knew that the marketplace had appetite for and wrote the book correctly. That's where we were in 2017, and now in 2023, we're approaching 2 million copies, multiple translations, custom editions into micro niches, certification programs, and more. And my legacy plan really is if my tombstone reads loving husband, proud father, and creator of exactly what to say, I'm kind of okay with that. That's really what we're leaning into.
Yeah, and I'm sure that this opened up the floodgates for you to proved to you that building this framework can help you also take so many of your experiences, and I'm sure every day you're also learning new ways to
Without question,
teach
every day.
philosophies to others, and you're leaving an amazing trail, and I'm sure that the future is really bright for you and your team. You have a wonderful team as well. So I want to transition into exactly what to say. I know that you get a lot of these questions asked, and specific, we'll talk about some of the phrases that are used and what is kind of the intention behind it. But what are some mindset principles? If someone was to say, I'm going to buy this book today and this is going to solve all my problems, I think there's like an important mindset concept that someone needs to come in with a frame of mind to say, if I'm going to practice and live this model, what would be some tips that you would share with someone if they were going to enter into this world of exactly what to say?
I mean, the original book is 23 sequences of words. They're words that talk straight towards the subconscious brain, and they're not really about the words. So letting you into a touch of a secret here is the words are actually 23 key principles around influence and persuasion. So if I tried to teach people the principles of influence and persuasion, the book would be like giant. It would take you 400 years to be able to consume, and the book wouldn't be able to run fast. People would struggle to find examples. They'd struggle to understand the principles. By comparison, by creating the example first, people start to learn the principle behind that example in application. That's the method in the madness there. Behind all of that, though, are what we call our 4 cornerstones of conversational excellence. They don't live in the book, but they're part of the operating framework that lives outside of the book, and the work we do with our guides and help people understand how to reach higher levels of competence in utilizing words in day-to-day is probably what people should understand more from a philosophy point of view. The first is this, is that the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment you're saying it. See, people think that it's about saying, I've got to insert the words, remember the words, etc. It isn't. It's about pre-briefing for conversations as opposed to debriefing for conversations. How many times have you come away from a conversation and thought shoulda, woulda, coulda? How many times have you come away from a conversation and thought, who on earth was that idiot? And the person you were talking about is yourself. There are so many moments that we can get more ready for, and whether it's common objections, whether it's the things that we have mapped out for later today, or whether it's just the realization of how I show up for this specific moment on repeat in a customer scenario is something I need to level up on. So there's the first philosophy, is the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment you're saying it. Let's bounce past that and understand the second, which is that curiosity is the fuel to great conversation. See, people think that winners in sales are the ones that are almost that alpha, hyper-confident, uber-like, aggressive sales monster. Having worked in over 800 industries, trained more than 2 million sales professionals, I found that not to be true. Those people might have some high-level performances once, but the ones that sustain over a period of time, they're insanely curious, they care massively about people, and they understand the context of how their product or service can be helpful towards the individual they're looking to influence. And when you are strategically curious, you can collect a body of evidence that allows you to be insanely more persuasive.
Right on.
What many of the prefaces in words within exactly what to say are tools for you to set up the ability to ask more meaningful questions. They're almost keys to open doors. They're little setups before you deliver your punchline. So we've got the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment you're saying it. We've got curiosity as the fuel to great conversation. Then behind that, the third cornerstone is that people do things for their reasons and not yours. What that means is you should never, ever, 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 ever invite anybody to do anything, particularly buy something, unless you can say these words first. And the words you should look to say first are the words because of the fact that you said.
Hmm.
Because of the fact that you said blank, blank, and blank, then for those reasons, what I'd recommend is blank, blank, and blank. That's how you become insanely more influential and persuasive. That's really easy in theory. It's a touch more challenging in practice because it's difficult to collect the blanks. Requires emotional intelligence, requires strategic curiosity, requires the ability to efficiently and effectively ask a quantity of quality questions to garner the information you need to harness the strength of your recommendation. Which leads, I guess, to the fourth cornerstone, which is the person who's asking the questions is the one who is in control of the conversation. So you want to understand the mindset and thinking around exactly what to say. Lean on that. The worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment you're saying it. Curiosity is the fuel to great conversation. People do things for their reasons and not yours. And the person asking the questions is the one who's in control of the conversation. Know that, then you can overlay the words on top. Without knowing that, it bumps into some of the mistakes that I see where people write to me and say, hey, Phil, I read the book and I'm using the words and I got all the
Right.
words into this one email that I've written. And I'm like, geez, no, don't. It's
Right.
like going to a Las Vegas all-you-can-eat buffet and taking the entire spread, putting it into a smoothie maker and expecting it to
Yeah.
taste good.
There's got to be some critical thinking behind structuring the
You got it.
conversation. And some of that comes through practice, some coaching, mentoring, and just, I mean, having the courage to just go out there and do it. And the third one really resonates with me. People do things for their reasons, not yours. And I was very early in my sales career. I used to work at, well, you live in the States, so you know Best Buy. And, it was a non-commission sales environment, which was nice because it helped us build a real culture of going after what's best for the customer, right? What's in mind for the customer. So just saying to the client, hey, by the way, I'm not on commission. I'm just going to make a recommendation based on what I think is best for you. But I just remember asking really great questions. What size is your living room? And if their living room was really, really big, we knew that if you're going to be sitting, how far is your sofa going to be sitting from your TV, assuming they want to come in and buy a flat screen TV. And if it was more than 12 feet, we know that an appropriate TV size should be over 50 inches. So I would say, because of the fact that you said you're going to be sitting 12, 16 feet from TV, the appropriate recommended size would be above 50. They're not going to go say, well, no, I need a smaller TV. Well, you're using the information that they gave to you. So it's much harder for someone to contradict themselves than they are to contradict
If
you.
the customer or prospect says something, it must be true. If you say it might not be.
Right on. Yeah. That's great. That framework is phenomenal. It's a good, all right, if I'm going to first embrace this concept of applying these 23 rejection-free phrases, I need to be able to mentally convince myself that these are the cornerstones that I have to follow. That's great. So in your experience, what have you observed, or what are some of the risks, and you have mentioned this a little bit earlier, of executing these practices the wrong way? And I think about what your example of the email, but also tonality, timing, reading the room, lack of empathy. I mean, some things maybe you can't teach, but just wonder, are there any tips or things that you could share around that?
Well, yes, I think so. And I have a very heavily reviewed book on Amazon, right? So we've done a ton with this. And my reviews are generally either 5-star or 1-star. And we got a glowing average. I'm really happy with it. And anytime I read a 1-star review, which I've started to stop doing, what I'm always intrigued by is the intent that somebody's coming at the review with. They've already decided ahead of time that this is for manipulation or it's for something that is unethical.
Yeah.
That's where they've started their read from, and they've looked to be able to validate that same viewpoint. All of the words in exactly what to say can be used to ethically influence people. All of the words in exactly what to say can be used to corrupt or manipulate people. I don't get to decide how somebody chooses to be able to use the skill set.
Yeah.
So I think part of that lies on the individual. And if I'm to understand what the difference between manipulation and influence is, the difference between those two things is integrity.
Yeah.
In today's world, we should look towards the sales profession and create new heroes. If you look back at Jordan Belfort, Glengarry Glen Ross, all these like heroic high five movies, always be closing, etc. In almost every single one of those scenarios, those businesses and those individuals would not succeed today. In fact, they'd be arrested today. In fact, what they were doing was stealing.
Yep.
Like, the consumer is not happy with their decision the weeks and months that come past that. And in a world as transparent as the one we now live in, those rules don't apply anymore. So what we're looking at here is to say, your job as a sales professional is to help people make smart decisions for them. The enemy is, in fact, indecision. And if you know people and you know your product or service can help those people in certain sets of circumstances, you have a responsibility to say, or to help that person make the decision to choose you. But also sometimes you have a responsibility to help somebody realize that you're not the right fit, and to be able to move on from that as quick as possible, to find more conversations with people that you can genuinely go and help. So the mistakes that people make in this is some ways just still missing the intent, that you still have to be a emotionally intelligent human being. The other thing that people can make as a mistake, and you touched on it a second ago, is tone. I said earlier on that curiosity is the fuel to great conversation. And there's a question in the book, or a preface to a question, which is the words, "What do you know?" And I could listen to some of the feedback of where people have read that book and say, well, I can't say to somebody, like, what do you know about us and who we are and what makes us different? That sounds aggressive. It sounds condescending. I'm like, you're right, you can't. But you could say, what do you know about us and the way we do things and everything that goes into being able to deliver a result like this? I could say the exact same words, but I can say it aggressive, leaning in, or I can say it fully with genuine curiosity and bewilderment in my tone. And guess what? Now anybody in any accent, any part in the world can deliver things that way around. So just like I can give somebody a book full of music notes, doesn't necessarily mean that they can make beautiful music. Just like you could give somebody a recipe book of 5-star winning menus, doesn't mean that's what's going to end up on the plate. And when you put nearly 2 million books into the world and you've trained the number of industries and people I have, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've been caught in the moment where you put on the spot and they ask a question, maybe it came off wrong, but in their wired brain or maybe from their worldview, they will, what if I use it this way? And you'd have to reframe or, some of that. But that's such a great point. This is first of all, like a few things to unpack. In the past, there's so much media attention about what sales was, and there's so much access to information, the internet, about what sales really is. And the rules that we need to play by are these. It's being honest, being transparent, being genuine. That's, people want to do business that are with intention, with purpose, with a mission to serve, not to serve themselves, but to serve their customer. And so such a great point. There's a lot of phrases in the book that stand out to me. You just used the one, what do you know about? My favorite ones are favor. I think the best point that you made in that book is asking for referrals. In my industry, I coach accountants, so I'm a sales coach for accountants.
Yep.
And a lot of the times they work off of referral business. But you mentioned 3 things that the reasons why oftentimes we don't ask for referrals, it's not the right time, or we don't know what to say,
or too lazy. We don't know when to ask, or we don't know how to ask. It's one of those 3 reasons.
You got it. And what I also love about that is that there are these ways you can combine few phrases inside of the same conversation. With the favor, I think you've got the open-minded concept in there. So I guess what I want to lean to is, where have you seen the combination of 1 or 2 phrases work really well in a conversation so that it increases your probabilities of that having positive outcomes?
I mean, so many examples. And what's interesting now in the evolution of the work is, when we work through the certification program, we have 32 sequences of words. Instead of it being a random set of words all sporadic through the book, the words have sequence and purpose. So we start with rejection-free opening formulas. We move towards perspective changes. From there, we have a body of words that fall into this category of assumptive frames to allow us to accelerate the speed of decision. We then have another chunk of words that are all in a category called labeling to allow us to reach points of agreement very, very quickly. What we then have is a sequence of words that will allow us to be able to stay in the game when we are perhaps losing momentum in a conversation. And we then have sequences of words that would allow us to be able to maximize our conversations, get more from the conversations we're in. So we started to be able to sequence them out, 32 sequences of words. What's funny, though, is as I work through a 3-day program with people, is they start to realize that actually the 32 sequences of words in the precise order that we package them can all be stacked one after the other, 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 to be able to create a really meaningful, thought-provoking conversation around any set of circumstances that you're looking to influence people.
Wow.
And it kind of creates these like epiphany light bulb. They're like, oh, geez, I've seen you talk about things like question trees. So I talk about question trees in the past of where you can create a desired outcome by skillfully crafting 5, 6, 7 questions that get you to a known destination that collect you evidence. That's what you can do when you use the word choices right.
Yeah.
How does that show up? Is, well, let's just take a real quick 2-part. Rejection-free opening formulas. We've got, I'm not sure if it's for you, but we've got the words open-minded, given that the whole world likes to see themselves as open-minded. We could say, hey, I'm not sure if it's for you, but how open-minded would you be to blank?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We could bump into a moment of resistance and we could say, help me understand is when was the last time that you found yourself in a situation like that? Another pairing, right? And we try to showcase to people that the whole world is playing checkers, yet there is the option to play chess. You just got to learn how to play it. And they all become tools to move a conversation further forward, to create moments of clarity, to insert new ideas, to pull new information, to make stronger recommendations, to keep you in a conversation when you're losing, to get you the ability to be able to ask for more. And the words favor are a guaranteed way that you can get just about anybody to agree to do just about anything before they even know what it is. So how many times are there that you can request a favor? We position it as a referral script, but we also, in that referral script that I share in the audiobook, it uses 9 sequences of magic words, even though we preface it by saying that it is about using the words favor. What's interesting, if you listen to my full referral script, it's littered with other magic words in the book. And what's magic is nobody notices, which is the point. They're focusing on the favor point because that's what we asked them to focus on.
Yep.
They just had the experience of 7, 8, 9 other sequences of words being used of them in the delivery of the script, and they didn't catch it.
And that's why I absolutely love that, because you talk about someone like you, and just the micro details of, hey, you haven't gotten around to, and this is just me quoting some of those. And I have, because I do also do some coaching, like that one really stood out to me, because it is a long sequence of how to position step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. But man, that executed super well. What I've done in my emails after, to your point, when is the right time to ask for the referral? It should be right after they are happiest with you, right? And so like, it's my last conversation. We're closing out the engagement. Carlos, you've solved all my problems. Thank you so much. I built out a favor. I literally say a couple of favors. Favor number 1, leave me a review. Favor number 2. And then I just kind of used some of those sequences, and I put my Carlos personality into it. And I have gotten referrals, and it works. So sorry to cut you off there.
No, I think let's elevate that conversation about referrals and help people maybe understand something from listening into our conversation today that they can apply instantly. So you've got the request for a small favor, get everybody say yes. We could build out the full script, or I could actually give somebody a sequence of words that is more of a rejection-free opening to flirt referrals. This is something that's in the bigger book, not in the OG book. And it's the preface to the words, who do you know? So a mistake that many people make, say, for example, in the world of real estate, they say, who do you know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest? A mistake that somebody could make in the world of accounting is, who do you know that's looking for a new accountant? Trouble is you're asking the other person to do all the work. What we should be doing is looking for the symptom, because curiosity is the fuel for great conversation, and we're looking to create a curiosity gap in the moment to allow somebody to possibly, potentially, maybe know somebody that could be useful to you. So if you're looking to find somebody that potentially could need a new accountant, I would ask my existing clients is, who do you know that has talked about potentially maybe having some tax challenges this year? Who do you know that is going through or has gone through significant amounts of growth in their business over the last 12, 18 months? Who do you know who is considering making a geographic change? Who do you know that's talked about potentially buying a building? Who do you know that is going through growth expansion and taking on new staff? Like, I'm looking for reasons why somebody might have outgrown their existing accountant, as opposed to who do you know that would like to change their accountant. But I'm saying things like possibly, maybe, might. I'm saying things like has talked about, has considered, has potentially. What does it do? It creates a grey space. That grey space becomes a play space. It's also a safe space, and from which you can craft real opportunities. And this is the stuff that people miss when they focus just on the words. They don't understand the nuance of how you can become more pulley as opposed to pushy when it comes to creating opportunities.
Yeah. And by the way, I love that last sentence talking about the difference of being pulley and pushy. So I may want to ask a little bit about where you came up with that concept. But before that, there's something that resonated with me about planting these seeds with these sequence of words. It's almost like you're building a puzzle in their brain.
That's right.
That is unsolved. And so therefore they are just, doesn't matter where they're, like, they think about numbers, they think about accounting if we're talking about this context, but this puzzle is still unsolved, and they need to find the missing piece, which is the who do you know.
No different to how Netflix built a series, right? It's no different to how every soap leaves a cliffhanger so you come back towards the next episode. It's realizing that actually what our goal is with our clients and prospects is to set up never-ending conversations. What everybody else looks to do is start, stop, start, stop. So how do I have to open a conversation again? How do I have to open a conversation? I'm like, why did you lose it? It means you have to reopen it. So many people are just checking in, touching base, doing all these other inappropriate things, when if they just stayed in the conversation in the first place, they wouldn't need to I'm just anything.
Right on. So let's talk about the difference between a pushy salesperson and a pulley salesperson. What differentiates one versus the other?
Permission is somebody who is genuinely pulley is strategically curious. They don't know for certain whether they can help people. They're like 94% certain they're the best accountant for that given circumstances, but only 94, and they're happy to enter into a conversation to try and find out if these folks are one of the 6% that they cannot help. They are confident without being arrogant. Their confidence is, I know in the right circumstances I can crush it, but I also know that I'm not right for every set of circumstances. So the way they become pulley is by asking more strategic questions, by pacing and communicating in a way that has somebody wondering what you might say next, that also can build tension in a conversation. So the result is the other person believing fully that you are working for them. And when people have questioned things around the morality, etc., where they're working exactly what to say, is like, do people not know what you're doing to them? I'm like, this isn't something you do to people. This is something you do for people.
Right on.
This is a service. This is helping people navigate complex decisions that without your help, they would stay in maybe.
Or in pain.
People think that no is the enemy of yes in sales. No isn't the enemy. Maybe is the enemy. Our job is to help people make their mind up. Our job is to help people make smart decisions. That's what we're here to be able to do. If you're truly pulley, you are curiously asking questions to help the other person reach a position of certainty, not features and benefits and waxing lyrical about the brilliance of your brilliance.
Yeah. And some of it is you're guiding them to self-discovery
It's
by
exactly what all of
asking.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Well, I got one or two last questions for you, Phil. You've been so generous with your time. And one thing that I think about a lot is we do a lot of business online.
Yep.
And asynchronously, I wonder how this phraseology could impact how to do business. When is it the right time, and what are the right ways to apply the exactly what to say method, asynchronously, email, text, direct message? Have you learned anything about that you could share?
A huge amount. And its application is in conversational language. Where does conversational language appear? Everywhere. It could be in sales page copy, it could be in email autoresponders, it could be in text message, Instagram DMs, etc. It's in all of these places. What I'm probably better to share here is the mistakes that people make in online communication. Is they don't leave space for the other person to join the conversation. I see this on text messages and emails where people ask 5 questions in one email. Which one did you want me to answer? I see it in written conversation, in text, and on DMs, where people phrased something as a question but didn't put a question mark on it and wondered why they didn't get a response. Because the question mark sets the tone that says this requires a response. No question mark, then you made a statement that somebody thought about, but the tonality didn't go up like it would in spoken word because there was no punctuation to help somebody understand that. So what you got was no reply. So the mistakes are that people don't consider how this message is going to be received, and they don't allow it to play out like a game of tennis. It needs to go backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And my general viewpoint is if you are writing a text, DM, or email response to somebody where you're looking to influence and persuade, and it's more than a sentence or a paragraph, chances are you probably should be writing a shorter message to get to a more meaningful conversation. So that
Very
would
nicely
be
done. Yeah.
my take on that from an online point of view. But I tell you where there is huge application is scripting for videos, openings, hooks, closings, call to actions, the ability to set up and demonstrate empathy to a particular part of your audience that you're looking to be able to engage with that piece of content, application to be able to bring it into your content creation strategy for real. And I tell you where to look for it now that I plant this seed in your head, you're going to see it everywhere, is exactly what to say is commonly used and curriculum within a lot of screenwriting programs nowadays. So when you're watching TV shows and you're watching movies, you will see stacked exactly what to say language appear in scripting. Because it helps you get to a point with huge efficiency, because it also creates curiosity gaps. And when you think about the movie business or the TV business, I've either got to cover a lot of ground quickly because we only had 23 minutes for the episode, and we're looking to be able to tell a 18-month story in 23 minutes. And also, the person engaging with that needs to do part of the work in their own mind's eye and in their own inside. So the ability to create curiosity gaps with rhetorical or prefaces of questions that cover that amount of ground means that you insert yourself in the show, you insert yourself in the movie, you live vicariously through the characters that have been created. So that's been fun to see play out and was never an original intention when I wrote the book, but I do now understand its application.
That's wonderful. Phil, I got one last question for you. You are doing such great work impacting so many sales professionals carry out this mission of yours and just helping customers make better decisions and be served the right way. What's on the roadmap for you and your team? You know, what are some exciting things you'd like to share for my audience that is interested in learning more about you and your team?
Yeah, I mean, we are all in exactly what to say. Like, this is my life's work. What that means is this has grown far bigger than a book. This is not a book anymore. It's what we call a movement. And at this moment in time, I have 37 independent certified guides, and they are putting themselves in front of the brand and training the materials towards their audiences. And at some point in time, I'd like Carlos M. Garcia to be part of our certified program and bring it to some of your people. So that's something that we are keen to grow out to 100 certified guides, and I'm building infrastructure around that. We've put head of learning and development into a role in that. We've got brand, we've got community, we've got a collaboration of really, really high quality trainers, coaches, consultants that are all independently badass, but all tied together now with exactly what to say certification as part of their ensemble and repertoire. What that means is we're going to have dozens and dozens and dozens of events happening globally around exactly what to say, and that could be an 8-person masterclass that is happening where somebody is running it out in the local community, and it could be a big 5,000 person event with me, but everywhere in between, online, offline, micro niches, everywhere. We're looking to be able to build this out. Some of our guides that are bringing it to the world of parenting, bringing it to the world of relationships and how people can be more influential in the dating world. And I know that my message can translate. Sometimes it needs the right messenger. And that's what's becoming exciting with the guides is right message, wrong messenger in me. Attach the right message to the right messenger, it can carry it to places that I wouldn't. And it also means we have our independent certification programs now that I run out of our boardrooms in New York City. We are licensing other corporations that I trust to be able to train the materials inside their organization. Like, my goal really is to make exactly what to say bigger than how to win friends and influence people. And people that care about ethically influence people say things like, have you been through an EWTS program, in the same way that they say things like, have you studied NLP, or have you been to Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within? It's that level of knownness, not for me, but for the body of work that is on my roadmap to be able to keep building out from here.
That's an excellent mission, and I am confident that you will achieve that. I really do see this movement be evergreen and continue to evolve, especially with you as its leader of it. But super grateful to have you today to share some of your wisdom, your knowledge, and again, your amazing product. And I'd love to just give you maybe a moment to share, how can folks learn more about you and your organization if they're curious on getting themselves involved with you?
Great website to be able to have a dig around is the site that we've been building for the last year or so, which is exactlywhattosay.com. And there you'll see contributions, articles written by a quantity of quality experts that all care about how words could move people to action. So we're super proud of that. If you want to learn more about me and the work that I do primarily, Phil M. Jones UK on Instagram. Instagram tends to be the platform that I show up as a me more often. That's me in my in DMs. That's me in my stories, etc. So we'd love to be able to continue the conversation with anybody across on Instagram. If there's something you've taken from today's discussion that you either want to let me know, or if there's a question that's follow up from what we chatted on today.
Of course. Well, thank you again for joining us today, Phil. Super exciting. And everyone, thank you for tuning in today. I will leave more information about Phil M. Jones and his team in the show notes. And until next time.